Nvidia reported their earnings last week, and since then the stock is down over 25% after hitting a low as much as 30%. Does this mean that Nvidia is now a buy? Or does this mean that Nvidia is possibly heading to $100 per share? Let's find out. Hey, welcome back to another video, guys. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe down below, join the community. And if you are a long-time subscriber, make sure to drop a huge like to show your support for the channel. So let's first start off this video by looking at how Nvidia performed in its last earnings report. So as we can see here, they reported an EPS of $1.84 versus $1.71 expected, which was around a 7.6% beat. And then on the revenue side, they reported around $3.18 billion versus $3.28 billion, which was around 1.9% miss. So looking at this, the results were not that great, but they weren't that bad either. Revenue did miss, but it was fairly low, and on the flip side, EPS did beat by a bigger margin than revenue missed. However, just looking at these results, you can't really get the whole story because this is not what spooked investors. In fact, the guidance, in my opinion, is what spooked investors. So ready for it? In the next quarter, Nvidia reported an expected guidance of $2.7 billion versus $3.4 billion expected. That's over a 20% miss on guidance. So for a growth stock, this is a massive miss. And this, in my opinion, spooked a lot of investors into thinking that the growth days that Nvidia has had over the last couple of years is pretty much come to an end. And as a result, if that is true, it's most likely time to move on from the stock into other potential growth stocks. So as a result of this news, the stock price dropped from around $200 per share to around $133 per share in just a couple of days. Investors went ahead and instantly priced in this miss, and they pretty much priced in a slowdown in growth moving forward for Nvidia, and all of this changed literally overnight, including the sentiment. Many investors are not as bullish on Nvidia now than they were right before Nvidia reported their earnings. So that shows how the shift in sentiment has really affected the stock recently. And what this really goes to show you is how one earnings report can really change a whole story around a company. And this is especially true when it comes to large, high growth companies. If you look at Facebook, for example, this was a perfect example where they did have slowdown in their growth, and as a result, the stock price did take a massive hit and has continued sliding since then. Now, if we take a look at TipRanks over here, we can see that there was actually even a downwards drop in price targets from analysts. Although they see still a combined upside of over 50% in the stock, it is down significantly from their price targets from, say, October. If we quickly look at the insider activity as well, you can see that the insiders did see this coming, and many of them have been selling portions of their positions while the stock hit all-time highs sometime in late September or early October. Now, even their CEO unloaded around $11 million worth of shares at $271.98 per share, which is minuscule compared to his $3.6 billion position, but it was still interesting to see that he did sell out a position when the stock was near its all-time high. Now, if you want to see more insight on Nvidia or any other stock on TipRanks, I will leave a link in the description. Click that link, sign up for free, and you can get a lot more insight into this stock and some of your other favorite stocks as well. But anyways, a guidance miss of 20% is no joke. It's not something we can just brush off the shoulder and just pretend it didn't happen. We really need to take a look at this and see what this means for the stock moving forward now. So at this point, you might be wondering why they missed so significantly on their guidance and why they even had a miss on revenue in this past quarter. I mean, this time last year, the stock was really setting records. You had blowouts in their revenue, blowouts in their earnings, blowouts in their guidance. Everything was going well for the stock. And therein lies the problem, because this time last year, cryptocurrencies were pretty much booming and peaking, and Nvidia kind of went along for the ride there. In fact, you can see here that their CEO even said on their last earnings call that our near-term results reflect excess channel inventory post the cryptocurrency boom, which will be corrected. He also admitted on that call that they did overestimate the demand of the cryptocurrency boom in 2018 going into 2019, and as a result, they have a lot of product sitting on the shelves in inventory this year. He also mentioned that because of all this, it will take an extra 1 or 2 quarters to go through all of this inventory that's just sitting there. Now, as an investor, this is not good news because you never want to see companies that have to store products on their shelves because they have an excessive inventory due to low demand. And this is bad because now when they do try to go sell this product over the next few quarters, they're most likely going to reduce prices on these products so that they can get them out the door. And there's also not going to be as much demand as people were expecting because these products are now older products and there's newer products out there from competitors like AMD, which will completely blow these existing products out of the water. So Nvidia is really going to have to take a cut here on their profits, most likely take a loss on these products just to get them out the door, just so they don't have to hold on to this inventory for much longer. But the bad news, unfortunately for AMD, did not end there because they were down on other segments of their business as well. So their gaming business segment actually generated 1.76 billion versus 1.89 billion expected, so a miss there. Data center segment came in at 792 million versus 821 million, which is also a miss there. But on the flip side, the professional visualization business segment was 305 million versus 284 million, so we had a slight beat over there. The data center business, in my opinion, out of these three was the most surprising because a lot of investors, including myself, got into the stock initially because they had massive potential in data centers. And as we progressed in 2018 going into 2019, we saw data center demand increasing, not decreasing. We saw cloud computing demand increasing, not decreasing. And as a result, we expected Nvidia's revenue, especially from this segment, to be increasing, not missing. But one of two things seem to have happened. Either their demand wasn't as strong as expected in this past quarter, or, which is most likely, prices for memory actually did drop, and as a result, prices for their products did drop, so they probably had to cut costs to compete with other players in this space. Either way, whatever it was, the result contributed to this 20% drop after earnings that we saw. So now you must be wondering, what am I personally doing with my Nvidia position? So right off the bat, I'm not going to pretend like I saw this coming. I do have position in Nvidia, and I have been a bull in this company for a little while, and I did not see a miss this big, to be honest. Now on the revenue side, I did expect revenue to come in at pretty much in line to what analysts were expecting, or even at worst case, a slight miss. But what I did not see coming was this massive miss on the guidance side. Anyways, if you were in my VIP membership group over the last few months, you would have seen that I did post out that I was reducing my stake in Nvidia going into this earnings report. And as you can see here, I did post my latest sell order, which was placed right before the day of earnings that they reported. And you can also see my reasoning for selling, which was pretty much in line with what we saw. Now, I do still have a stake in Nvidia, but it makes up a very tiny portion of my portfolio and is an amount I'm comfortable holding for many years to come. Again, if you like this sort of insight from me and you want to see stocks that I'm buying, selling, or have positions in, you can consider joining the VIP membership group or the Patreon page. I will leave links to both in the description down below. So now the question really remains, do I think Nvidia is heading lower? Do I think Nvidia is heading to possibly $100 per share? So the answer to that is I do believe, yes, that Nvidia is heading lower. In my opinion, I don't think that the pain around this stock is done quite yet. So if we look at the charts here, we can see that a big gap from $103 to $114 was created, but there is very strong support at around $120. So what I think will happen is we will start selling off and we will hit that $120 support level, and if that does break, I believe we will fill the gap and find support at around $95 to $100 per share. Now on the flip side, there's also a massive gap from $170 to $195, and this was created from this past earnings report. Now as much as I'd love for this stock to go up and fill that gap, I don't think that's going to happen in the short term especially. And I think that we may have a rally up to say $165, $170 per share, but then I think that we'll completely roll over and start a descent down closer to $120 per share to test that support. But again, short term, anything can really happen. I can be completely wrong. Nvidia could rally back up $200 per share next week, and the bulls are going to be happy, the bears are going to be crushed, and that's just how the stock market works. And if this does happen, I'm sure you guys are going to remind me and point to this video and say, ha, you thought it was going to drop to $100. Now it's up at $200. You were completely wrong. But let's not forget here that I am still a bull on Nvidia for the long term. I do still have a small position in Nvidia for the long term. I do believe in the technology. I believe in the advancements they're making in AI and self-driving. And I do believe that they have a lot of potential ahead of them as they work through this big mess that they're in currently. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and a lot of you asked about my opinions on Nvidia and if it changed after their last earnings report. So I hope this video answered those questions for you. If you do have an interest in me covering any other stocks that you may be following or invested in, let me know in the comment section down below. I can make similar videos for other stocks as well, giving my opinion around it. But of course, the best videos will be ones that I'm personally invested in, and if you're curious, again, links will be in the description to my membership groups where you can view my portfolio. Now remember, if you guys don't comment down below, I'm not going to know what stocks you want to see, so make sure you have your voice heard. Comment down below. I read every single comment. I reply to every single comment, so make sure to comment down below. But either way, guys, don't forget to invest positively. Peace.